Good evening, everyone. How fantastic was Mark? How great was that? Slightly daunting following somebody that's so articulate and giving such a great message. And actually quite daunting in terms of the message I want to give, because pretty much every example that Mark went through was around video. And it just really brought home to me the power of video when telling stories, when actually engaging with your customers and your prospects, when trying to change perception about you in the market. So I'll try my best to follow the great examples that were shown earlier. And what I want to talk about is about better way to build brands through video. Caroline actually came up with a slightly different title for mine, so I thought I'd do what I'd like to talk about. Unlike Mark, who's very lazy. Yeah, I know. I was very compliant. So for me, brands are really important. I think they're really important in people's lives. From a consumer perspective, brands bring knowledge, trust, certainty, and even kind of pride. You're proud about some of the brands that you follow. And from a business perspective, brands bring more sales, more revenue, more profit, more margin. So it's really, really important to understand how that actually plays out in the market. And I think that as brands have developed over the years, what we're seeing is for a long time, they've really understood the power and the impact of sight, sound and motion, and how that can actually change perceptions of the way people think about brands. It's back in the 1940s, I think the first TV ads started to come on board. But there was a real sea change in the kind of 80s and the early 90s about the way that advertising was changing, to move from a feature function type approach of telling people about a brand or a product, and moving across to something that's far more emotional. Interestingly, a lot of the videos that were shown earlier, and particularly the UNICEF example, really was very, very emotional, and even the Dove stuff was really emotional. I heard people behind me actually reacting positively to the message they had. Do people remember? There's a few people probably of a similar age to me in the audience. Do you remember those ads of the 80s that kind of made that switch? That you moved from being, Daz washes whiter, which is very feature function, to something that actually changed that emotion. Can you remember those types of things? But that was in a day when there was this mass audience, and you could use mass media to reach that audience. Today we're in a very, very different landscape. We're seeing huge fragmentation across the media landscape that is really making it more and more difficult to be able to get your message across in the right manner, to the right audience, at the right time. So what we're seeing is that emotional connection is really important, but the landscape has changed. No longer is it a case of, if you wanted to watch music, a music program on television, you with your family would sit around and watch Top of the Pops on a Thursday at 7 p.m. and the whole country watched it with you. Today, if you want to watch music, you're unlikely to go to TV. You're more likely to go to video sharing sites. But then there's a plethora of sites there and media channels available. So how does a brand today understand how to reach their target audience? In what way to do that? In what way to create that emotional connection? Because it's no longer about 3 channels, or 10 channels, or 100 channels. It's 10,000 channels. It's 1 million channels of way of getting that connection. And the consumer is moving away from people that necessarily just want to buy a product. They actually want to understand you. They want to understand your brand heritage, the story that you're creating. And it's far more immersive. Mark talked about the digital natives. I tend to agree. I mean, maybe I didn't have a pager in 1993, and it made me think actually Mark had a pager, but none of his friends did. So he was connected to the world of one, potentially. Today we're connected to the world of 2.5 billion, and there's an opportunity there to find the right audiences, but you need to figure out how you're going to do that. So we're seeing a transition very much from a feature function, a product-based message to an emotional message, to a massive fragmentation in the market, which means that as marketeers, we need to think really carefully about how to get that message out. It's not a mass market, it's not a shotgun approach anymore. You may want to think of it almost as a mass market of niches. So there's many niches out there, and people are very much going towards the content that they're looking for. I feel the internet is very much around the democratization of information gathering. That means any of us can go out and find the information that we particularly want. No longer are we just sat back and people feeding information to it, pushing that information. We're taking charge of that and trying to find the information that's really relevant to us. But the challenge in this world is that what we often see is people are looking at digital literally as an or only as an add-on to the other methodologies that they're using, the other channels that they're going to market with. And that's fine. It's great. You can use digital and you can use video to do that, and it provides an incremental uplift. However, that's not taking full advantage of what digital and video can offer. By looking in an innovative way, by transforming your approach and methodology and the channels that you're using, you can actually really grow your opportunity significantly. And I think some of the examples Mark showed prove that. So I want to talk about three things quite briefly. I want to talk about how video can help you find the right people. It's absolutely critical today that you find the right audience at the right time. Secondly, it's about telling stories, and that's engaging and actually starting a dialogue with your customers. It's about showing some more of yourself as a brand rather than literally just pushing product. And then finally, it's about building relationships. Now, many of you will think there's nothing new in this at all, and there isn't. It's always been about the right audience at the right time. It's about being the right message, which is around telling stories, and then building those relationships. But I'd say that digital today, and video in particular, offers a huge opportunity to drive that forward. A unique opportunity built around the data that you can gather and how you can target people that can create the relationships that you need. So let's start with finding the right people. So online video today is big. The numbers here prove that. On YouTube, there's a billion users on YouTube. They're consuming something like 6 billion hours of content a month. So almost an hour per person on the planet. So there's a huge opportunity. There's a huge appetite for people there to consume that video content. And it's about them consuming that content when they want. And in particular, it's about how they want to consume that video. Hands up those in the room that have watched a video on their mobile phone, say in the last couple of weeks. Most of you. Fantastic. You're all obviously all on the same train as me in the morning, because I sit there and everyone is watching things on their mobile phones. In 2011, we saw on YouTube about 6% of video views coming from mobile phones. In 2013, that was 40% of video views are coming from mobile phones. So just think about that again. We touched on the importance of mobile earlier. Think about your mobile strategy and how people are consuming that content. So we're definitely seeing this huge shift to mobile consumption of video. But we're also seeing people watching YouTube videos on bigger screens as well. So around about 30% of videos are now being watched on screens of 30-inch or more size. And we see a huge movement in this area as well. Some of you may have seen that we launched Chromecast yesterday, which is a device where you can cast from your laptop or your tablet or your phone and cast it up to your TV screen. So we're seeing this whole interplay of devices going on there, and understanding how people are consuming that information is really important, because where they are, what device they're consuming that information on, is going to change how they're going to consume it. So you need to be designing content that meets the needs and requirements of the audience and how they're looking. So what are the key things that you need to think about when you're developing a strategy around a brand, but more importantly around a video strategy? First and foremost is data. Data is incredibly important. And why is it important? Well, firstly, in the digital world, you can get so much more of it. The insights that you can gather, about who's come to your website, what other websites have those people been to, how long have they been on your website, what content have they consumed, where's the drop-off points. All of those things are incredibly important. So there's your data. There's data from companies like Google as well that can really help you understand who these individuals are in terms of how you can group them together, how you can get your messages to them as well. So there's multiple types of data that you need to be thinking about. I completely agree with Mark's point about big data. Big data is important, small data is critical. It's about understanding those tiny bits of insight that can actually transform how you're building your brand, how you're going to market, how you're communicating with your customers and prospects. Another way of targeting is through context. Context has been around forever. So if you wanted to target people that are interested in cars, you would go and do some contextual advertising in a car magazine. However, today, we come back to that concept of those channels have just exploded. It's not just about a magazine anymore that people read maybe on a monthly basis. It's about having the information when they're interested, and that tends to be all of the time. So there's a concept here about always-on strategy as well. Be there when people are looking. So understanding the context, understanding the types of people that are going to particular sites and feeding your information through to them, creating the right videos for the right people. And then the third pillar here, the third key thing is around choice, and I think this is where we've seen the most fundamental change over recent years, is now the power is in our hands as consumers, not your hands as marketeers. The consumer now has choice of when they watch something, what they watch, how they consume it. And media companies are needing to be really aware of that, and marketeers need to be aware of that by creating the right content and creating the right engagement. So that choice thing is incredibly important, as I said, is what I see as a fundamental change in the way that information is being gathered. So that's finding the right people. There's multiple techniques from that. The next thing is around telling great stories. And I think, whenever you see somebody standing up here, and Mark's a great example, he tells stories. And that's more engaging. And it's really important to show that when you're creating a brand, when you're talking about a brand and you're promoting it. How do you tell great stories? Three things that we need to be aware of that have fundamentally changed, and I've touched on one or two of these already. First one is, today video can offer you an opportunity to engage with your customers and prospects without time restrictions. It's no longer about trying to get your message across in a 30-second or a 15-second slot on a television. Yes, there's still a place for that, but that's not about telling real stories. That's almost a teaser to the story. Today, digital and digital video can really expand the opportunity that you can engage with the individuals. You can do that over a period of time. You can do that on multiple occasions. So, no longer is it just about a short 30-second slot or half a page ad or anything like that. It's about using the time and the space. And we see on YouTube a huge volume of people watching long-form content. It's no longer about short, sharp, time-restricted. The second piece is around schedule. As I said before, it's anytime, any place, and this really does mean that you need to be always on. You need to be there when people are looking for information that's relevant to you and relevant to your brand as well. Hands up those in the room that watch a lot of catch-up TV, video on demand, that sort of stuff. Pretty much everyone. There's probably only one TV program in my household that people actually come together to watch these days. Everything else we all do individually and do in our own time frames. So there is that fragmentation of that watching. So, and with online video, you're able to take advantage of that. And it's just as applicable to have relevant people watching your content at 3 o'clock in the morning as it would be at 7 o'clock in the evening or at lunchtime, particularly if your content's around certain practices with masks in certain car parks that I couldn't possibly comment on. And then finally, it's around the enabling you to structure a conversation. Digital and digital video, online video, is enabling you to actually start that conversation, keep progressing, keep moving it forward, change the way that you're able to interact. I mean, I think, again, I'm referring to Mark more often than I am to myself in this presentation. I apologise. But again, a great example was the US Coke ad, where understanding through data who the individual was, you show them a different form of content. And then you can actually start to build on that content. You can take that conversation rather than from one engagement to 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 engagements by feeding through different content that's relevant to those individuals. What I want to do now is talk a little bit around, again, the Dove sketches example. For an absolute huge plug, what I would say, I think this is a great example of how you've got a creative organisation that comes up with amazing creative, so Mark and his colleagues, coming up with brilliant creative, and then working with somebody like us at Google that's got the reach and the technologies that mean that we can absolutely take this to market in a highly effective and credible way. Has anyone seen this ad? Yeah, a couple, right? I shouldn't have said that, I should have just played it, so let me just go
Oh God, that's a tough question.
So I wouldn't think I've got anything beautiful.
Go on,
actually.
find something.
No.
Oh, I think all her skin is just amazing.
Thank you. I'm sorry to be crude, but I'd really like your butt. She's got a really nice butt.
Actually, I've never known that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's quite nice. She's got a beautiful face and quite smiley eyes as well.
I would have your legs. They look much better in a pair of jeans than mine do.
Your nose is better than my one.
Oh, we've both got big noses. Our whole family have big noses.
She's got bigger boobs than me, so
I'd rather have these.
I'll be happy if I look like my mum when I get to my mum's age.
Love you. Love you. I feel a bit emotional.
So again, a really good example of creating an emotional connection through advertising. But let me move on and show you another example.
I'm a forensic artist. Worked for the San Jose Police Department from 1995 to 2011.
I showed up to a place I'd never been, and there was a guy with a drafting board.
We couldn't see them, they couldn't see us.
Tell me about your hair.
I didn't know what he was doing, but then I could tell after several questions that he was drawing me.
Tell me about your chin.
It kind of protrudes a little bit, especially when I smile.
Your jaw.
My mom told me I had a big jaw.
What would be your most prominent feature?
Kind of have a fat, rounder face.
The older I've gotten, the more freckles I've gotten.
I would say I have a pretty big forehead.
Once I get a sketch, I say thank you very much, and then they leave. I don't see them.
All I had been told before the sketch was to get friendly with this other woman, Chloe.
Today I'm gonna ask you some questions about a person you met earlier, and I'm gonna ask you some general questions about their face.
She was thin, so you could see her cheekbones. And her chin, it was a nice, thin chin.
She had nice eyes. They lit up when she spoke.
Cute nose.
She had blue eyes, very nice blue eyes.
So here we are. This is the sketch that you helped me create, and that's a sketch that somebody described of you.
So yeah, that's...
She looks closed off and fatter, sadder too. The second one looks more open, friendly, and happy.
I should be more grateful of my natural beauty. It impacts the choices and the friends that we make, the jobs we apply for, how we treat our children. It impacts everything. It couldn't be more critical to your happiness.
Do you think you're more beautiful than you say?
Yeah. Yeah.
We spend a lot of time as women analyzing and trying to fix the things that aren't quite right. And we should spend more time appreciating the things that we do like.
So I don't know about you, but to me, the power and the emotion and the story that came across in the video was very, very powerful and incredibly strong. And that was over 3 minutes, that video, that online video, and had in excess of 60 million views on YouTube. So again, online video provides the opportunity to fully tell stories when you compare it to the 30-second ad slot. Now, I'm not saying that you shouldn't do both, one or either, but it just shows the expansion and the opportunity that you can get by using online video. It gives you an opportunity to create a wider discussion. The third area I want to focus on is around relationships, and it's building relationships. And we all know, and I probably don't want to go down this route of the, is it Tinder was the app, yeah, Tinder, of the one-night stand. And I've just realised that I'm being filmed, so okay, I'm going to go with it. Come with me on this. But we know that a relationship is not built on a one-night stand. A relationship is built over a period of time, about building trust and building respect and empathy, and really starting to engage properly with individuals. And what we can see is, through digital, you've got an excellent opportunity to do that. You can start to tell stories on a regular basis to an interested audience, to people that actually want to connect with you. They want to give you, or they've given you permission to watch the content that you're providing. There's a number of ways of doing this. I've seen some great examples of how companies have actually started to build content and build episodic content where they start to build on one video, leads onto a second video, onto a third video. You start to build a relationship through that. And there's ways of sequentially marketing to those people, of actually making sure that I don't see the second video in a series unless I've seen the first. So starting to use remarketing and behavioural technologies to actually make sure that you're bringing these individuals through on a journey. So you're bringing them through the brand story that you want to tell them. So it's really important to understand that there's opportunities to do that which might not be available by using other techniques. So in terms of a content strategy, a video strategy, what are the things that I see that are really important? Well, there's 3 pieces that we talk about. There's only 2 on the slide, but I will come to the third. The first one's around hero content. And this is really, looking at the way that people are using, online video and how they're using the online. It's around, there's people that browse and you want to inspire them, and they're looking for content that's going to inspire them. And we call that hero content that kind of solves that need. And secondly, you've got people that are just searching. That people are looking for very specific information, relevant content to their needs and requirements there and there. And we call that hygiene. So you've got the hero content and your hygiene content. Let me spend a few moments just talking through both. Hero content, I've just realised this presentation really ages me, doesn't it? So I've got a Levi's 501 ad, and then I've got Star Wars. I'm not quite sure what's going to come next. So hero content. And this is really important. This is the kind of tentpole activity where you can grab people's attention and bring them into the conversation with you. Has anyone, hands up those in the room that have seen the Volvo Trucks Van Down video? Yeah. Okay, probably about half of you. Well, great, because I'm not going to show that video. although it's a great piece of hero content, I thought I'd show you something from Volvo, because I think they're doing this really well in terms of this kind of hero content and the hygiene content. Let me show you this video, which again I think is a good piece of hero content, very much focused on their company and their proposition.
Hello, my name is Claes Nilsson, President of Volvo Trucks. I've learned that when you want to make a YouTube hit, you need a hook at the beginning of the film. And here it is. This is a hook from the new Volvo FMX. Made of cast iron, and it holds up to 32 tons. That's far more than this, so you don't need to worry. In fact, you don't need to worry about anything. The new Volvo FMX is the most robust truck we've ever made.
You get the CEO of your firm standing on a 3.5-ton truck over a harbour in Sweden. I mean, that's pretty impressive. That video has actually had well over 3 million views from that. So again, hero content. I love it. I often use it as an example because it's got that genuine piece. It's about their company, it's about their brand, and it really brings it home. And to me, it actually means that you can create hero content without creating and using a celebrity as well. You know? And many companies can't afford to hire a Van Damme or whoever else to kind of bring this forward. So again, when you go back to the office, think about what's at the core of your business and the core of your brand, and think about how you can translate that into video content. And around hero content as well, the key thing to remember is very few things go viral on their own. If you want, we speak to a number of people and they say, our ambition is that we get a viral video. Video goes viral, it goes massive. But it's a real challenge, particularly on something like YouTube. There's 100 hours of video uploaded on YouTube every single minute. It's 100 hours every minute. Now I know some of you are thinking it's hard to believe there's that many skateboarding cats. But there is a lot of high quality content going up there. And it's actually quite difficult to find. So you need to think about, you've got this great content, how do I get it out there? All of these campaigns, the Evian, the Dove sketches, the Kmart examples, all used paid media in a really smart way to drive that forward. Mark was involved in this in the Dove sketches, and the way that they were looking at it is they identified geographies and areas where they started to see some real interest in the video, and then they brought paid media in to really accelerate that, to add fuel to that and really drive that forward. And again, that's another wonderful thing about digital, is you've got that real-time data coming in, and you're able to analyze and you're able to move things around and drive that forward. So if you want to get a video with 67 million or 63 million or whatever number of millions of views, you might be disappointed if you can think you can just do that by getting great content and just seeding it out there. It does need that acceleration as well. Does anyone know the Kmart example? Yeah, okay, the American in the room does. Kmart have got this content, and it's called, I've got to be careful, Ship My Pants. See what I mean? Had to be quite articulate about that. So again, it's hilarious. It's very juvenile. I feel like a young boy laughing at it, but it's great. I'd thoroughly recommend you check it out. But again, great content, really funny, really shareable, but needs that acceleration, needs that media spend to drive that forward. And how can you do this? There's multiple ways, but one of the key ways here is actually looking at bringing in the choice of a customer, giving them the choice of whether they want to watch that content or not. This is TrueView. It's an ad format on YouTube, but the classic thing is the skip button here. So within that's up there. It's got a countdown up to 5 seconds. If you're not interested, you skip, you go away. Why is that important? Because if somebody stays and watches that ad, they are truly engaged. They've actively decided to watch that. And again, we'll talk in a moment a little bit about what those engagements are and what you need to look out for. Second area is hygiene content. What's this all about really? It's all about being there when your customers are looking for specific pieces of information. Anyone in the room gone onto YouTube and searched for a how-to video? Yeah, nods, yeah, lots of hands, yeah. Last summer, I've got a couple of sheds in my garden. They're very small, my garden's very small, I'm not trying to show off or anything. A couple of sheds, they needed refelting. What the hell was that? So I did the usual thing, went onto YouTube, did a search, came up with a video. Video actually told me exactly what I needed to do and what products I needed to buy. The slight downfall in that video was then I couldn't click and buy them online, but I have spoken to them since. But again, people go to YouTube to look for information that they need. In fact, YouTube is the second largest search engine in the world. So if you've got a search strategy on the largest search engine in the world and any other search engines, why haven't you got a strategy for being present when people are looking on the second largest search engine in the world? What type of information are people looking for? Well, this one is how to make Big Mac sauce. As I said, people look for lots of things, but what's really important here is that they've got got really nice content, and that's had 2.9 million views. People looking for that content. Don't underestimate the type of things that people are looking for. But be there, make sure you're being there, and that's a video created by McDonald's as well. And the other thing is that you've got great video content that's had loads of views on YouTube. That really helps you when people are off YouTube on Google searching for content as well. So that's the very same video, a different search term, and it actually surfaces it up very, very high at the top of the organic results in Google search. So think about that content. My recommendation on the hygiene is just make sure you're always there. Understand what your customers are looking for, the information they're getting, and make sure you're there. Great example from the UK, O2. O2 have got the O2 Gurus, and they've got a huge amount of content that's up there that shows people how to use the different devices they've purchased and all of that sort of stuff. So think like a customer. Think how you can be there. The final piece is around the hub. Now, I don't know about you, but I'm not sure that anyone wakes up in the morning thinking, I wonder if there are any new campaign microsites I can spend brand exposure time on today. I might be wrong, but I'm not sure about that. So again, it's thinking about where your customers are, bringing the information together and making it useful for them. So we talk about this hero content, this hub hygiene content, and then having a hub there. But the thing is, if you're bringing that together, make sure you're having an ongoing conversation with them. Don't just create one video and then sit back and think my job is done. Absolutely not. Start to feed information through, different videos through. If you've got a YouTube channel for your company, and I hope you have, and if you haven't, I recommend you do, think about how you can get people to subscribe to your channels, because that way, every time you upload a video, they are automatically informed about that, and it's great. And it's about that engagement. It's about bringing people back into your channel. Here's a good example. We've done a lot of CPG stuff today. Let me talk about some software, some cloud computing. This is Salesforce.com. Salesforce.com have their whole online video strategy is based on YouTube. They've got several thousand videos up there, and what you're able to do is you watch a video and then it kind of prompts you to go and watch something else and something else. The way that they think about it, I believe, is that they're almost getting people to self-select their way through the buying funnel. So you start with a kind of wider term, what is cloud computing or what is CRM, and then you move down through and you're actually starting to self-direct through the buying process. I know this is about brand, but it's always important to remember that return on investment thing. Salesforce have calculated that their YouTube strategy is the equivalent, or worth the equivalent of 217 highly effective salespeople working every day 9 to 5 with no breaks because of the interaction and the engagement they're having with their customers and prospects. Another example here is this is a content creator on YouTube called Sorted Food. Because of the quality and the quantity of content they've got on their channel, they appear very, very highly in the search results. This one's actually appearing higher than somebody that's got actually more views on that video, but because of the context that video's been created and hubbed, it actually gets a better search result on YouTube. So what do we need to think about? You need to think about hero, the tentpole type activity to kind of drive that interest and capture those browsers. You need the hygiene that goes on and on and on, and it's always there, it's being regularly updated, that catches those people that are in that kind of search mode, and then having that in a hub. And if you use that as a basis of your video strategy, it will actually build up that audience over time, which means that you're able to continually engage, go back, and you've got permission to go back to these individuals and build that brand. What are the things you need to be looking at? Well, relationships was one of the 3 things I spoke about up front. Relationships are really important. What does a relationship look like in a digital world? You might not know who these individuals are. So what you need to be thinking about is, well, how can I get people to follow me? They've visited, they've searched for me, they've watched me, they've subscribed, they've clicked. All of these things are very powerful indications of how that relationship is developing between you and between them and you. So just think about understanding the data behind that and moving those people along that relationship curve. So just to sum up, I think videos are absolutely a core platform to help companies build brands, help companies really take advantage of the fragmented nature of media consumption today. We're moving from mass down to niche. You need to be able to find those people. Digital and the data can help you do that alongside contextual and allowing customers choice, telling great stories. This will never change. Online video allows you a wider canvas on which to tell those stories. You're not restricted by time or length, so you're able to really enrich those stories, and that will lead to building stronger relationships. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Richard. That was fantastic. I think we have time for 5 minutes or so of question and answers. So if anyone wants to volunteer for the first question, please, there's a microphone going around. Please speak into the mic and give us your name and your company, if you would be so kind. So are there any questions, please, for Mark and Richard? Yep, one down the front, sorry.
Sorry, Laura, does Mark need a mic?
Hi, that's loud. It's Emma Inston from Blinkbox Music. I was just really interested in, because you both covered the Dove content, which is obviously amazing, but I'm really compelled by the idea of the kind of episodic content and being able to build over time. And I just wondered if, you know, with hindsight, whether, because they were great pieces of video, but as far as I'm aware, there were just a couple of great pieces of video, whether you thought that could be built on more with more kind of frequent or episodic sort of serial type content.
I mean, from a creative perspective, yes, and I think that's absolutely what we haven't yet done on Dove, and I think it's a big ambition of ours, which is to start to tell a longer term story about the impact. So I can't talk about it in detail, but we're looking at something around how you can affect an entire community over a period of time and raise the self-esteem of an entire community. And the plan with that is absolutely, as you say, is to take people on the journey as we do it, rather than do something and then have one hero piece of content. So yeah, absolutely. And actually, to your point, so Jamie Oliver is the one for me on YouTube who just gets it so right. The content he creates is fantastic, and the way that content builds I think is really good. So, but yeah, you're absolutely right. It's on our agenda of something to look at.
Any more questions from anybody else? One at the back, thank you.
Hello, Will Rowan from the customer. A question about production values. Classic direct marketing question. You've shown us some beautifully produced video for big brands that probably wouldn't do anything else. But is there any evidence that spending that money on production necessarily gets you more engagement?
So maybe I'll take this and then I'll throw it over to the creative guys. So from my perspective is you create the content that's relevant to your audience. And I'm always very self-conscious when we're presenting at things like this, that we often use some great examples from very large, generally CPG brands. But there's some good examples of relatively low cost production that is really impactful for particular audiences. The Salesforce example that I showed you, a lot of that is talking head type video. That hygiene piece is very, very powerful to get the message across. So you need to think about the audience. I mean, I think, I don't know how much a video costs to produce these days, but I always look at it, and some of you that may have seen me speak before, I use the example of my son. My son can take a video on his mobile phone. It doesn't cost him anything, and he can upload it, and it's in front of 2.5 billion people very, very quickly. And there is an audience for that type of content. Now, as your brand, you need to think about, where do I sit? What are the core things of my brand and how do I want that to be represented? So my feeling is that you need to understand your audience and kind of dial up and dial down not the quality, the production value according to that. I don't know, Mark, you've got
thoughts? I'd completely agree. Yeah. I think realistically a lot of the big brands that we work with, we take the same level of production value into a piece of online content as we would into a piece of TV content, because quite frankly the reach and exposure now you can get on pieces of online content is as good as you can with TV. I think your point about the audience is an important one. So there was some fantastic work last year from Abbott Mead Vickers for Knife Crime, which was an interactive YouTube video where you could make decisions and then it would serve you the next piece of content and take you on a kind of interactive story. And that was all shot with phones because it was relevant to the audience that it was targeted at. But yeah, I think the truth is that most of the big brands are spending as much on their online film as they are on their broadcast film.
And actually just picking up on that a little bit further, is it's really worth taking a look at some of the content creators on YouTube. And these are people that are doing filming with cameras, with relatively low-cost cameras or with their phones in their bedrooms. And these people have millions and millions of followers because they know their audience, and their audience might want them to be a bit scrappy or whatever. But it really resonates. And Jamie Oliver is at a slightly higher production value, but you've got brands like Ocado that are associating with him and taking huge advantage of that. But then you've got people that are doing unpacking. They go to the store and they come out and they do an unpack of what they bought at the shops, or they do their makeup and show you how to do makeup. And this is quite low production value, but again has tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, even millions of video views.
Yeah, and I think it comes back to your points around hero and hygiene as well. I think if you clustered together the hero content versus the hygiene content, you'd find that the hero content has much greater production values on average than the hygiene.
Yeah, absolutely.
Maybe one more question, and then I think we'll continue questions over drinks after the event.
Hi, I'm Kiki from Fosters. I'm wondering, the first thing is about what is the biggest challenge for the digital marketing? Because we all see that the performance is quite nice, but how do you think about the challenges? And also I'm wondering, this question is for Mark. I'm wondering, how do you leverage the creative ideas and the market research if they are totally in a different view? Can you give us an example? Thank you.
Just to go straight to that second question around market research, I think creative agencies often are very negative about researching creativity because they think that it stifles creativity. But actually, we're seeing more and more, and especially with digital content, that you have the opportunity to test your work and make it better. So we will release some content onto YouTube to see how organically it gets shared, and then we'll pull it down, make some amends and put it back up. So we'll quite often do that over a test period. Yeah, I think that's kind of a relatively common thing that we'll do now. I think most of the big brands that we work with want us to what we call link test a piece of TVC, so test it quantitatively before it goes anywhere, and it has to score a certain amount. But also now, more and more, we're seeing that with any pieces of online film, because back to the point about production values, when you're spending huge amounts of money on things such as online film, then you need to do the same thing. So pretty much most of the stuff that we do is researched and tested before it goes out. I think on outside of kind of film, we do a lot of A/B testing when we're talking about microsites. When we work with retailers, when we're working on their retailer site, we'll do a lot of A/B testing around home pages and messaging on home pages. And then the other thing that we actually have within Ogilvy is something called Ogilvy Change, which is a behavioural economics department. So they look at what are the small nudges that you can make in the customer journey to effectively upsell people into something. So an example is British Airways, which we work with. And they used to serve up, when you book a flight through British Airways, they'd serve up 2 hotel options for you that you could then upsell to buy. And it would be a 3-star hotel, for example, with a saving of £20, or a 4-star hotel with a saving of increase, say £60. And what we did is we tested for a couple of weeks, putting a 3rd option in, so which was a 5-star hotel, which had a saving of £150. And what we've done is, because you change the value spectrum that people are looking at, you move a percentage of people who, because your frame of reference has got bigger, you move a percentage of people that would have bought the mid-range hotel up into buying the more expensive 5-star hotel, and actually some people who hadn't bought at all bought into the lowest hotel. So we do quite a lot of kind of interesting behavioural testing with people like British Airways. We also do it with the Times and their subscription model around how you can add in extra options for people that ultimately means that you instinctively see an upsell. So there's a few ways we do it.
If I could just pick up on that as well, at Google we test everything on YouTube before it goes live. So for us, YouTube is the biggest focus group in the world. You can test it very, very quickly and get some really good insight in what's working, what's not working. We thoroughly recommend A/B testing content, websites, everything. And it's the power of real-time data. You can get responses so quickly now, and you can understand, people like this, they're dropping off at this point of a video, why are they doing that? Well, let's go back and recut it and all of that sort of thing. So yeah, I mean, my feeling, I might be wrong, but my feeling is, in the good old days, research, you'd have a problem, you commission the research, it would take you a while to then actually get the data and then come back, by which time it's almost gone. It's too late, it's old. Today, digitally, real-time data can help you do that.
And then the first question, I think, if I remember, was about the biggest challenge for digital marketing. For me, personally, from what I see, it's that it shockingly is still quite often an afterthought for a CMO. So they are still, a lot of CMOs are still obsessed with the TV ad that a brand creates, because it's the thing that the chairman will see on the weekend and his wife will say, that's your company, isn't it? That's good or bad. And actually, the general consumers are probably engaging more with the digital communications that business is doing, rather than that one TV ad. So for me, the biggest challenge is how do we carry on
you know, talking to the senior people within businesses about the importance of digital communications?
I'd completely agree, actually. We're violently agreeing on everything. It's rubbish for a panel debate. I apologise. But no, absolutely. I mean, I think we're seeing is, and I spoke about this a little bit, is that people are looking at digital and digital video, online video, as an incremental and add-on to what else they're doing. That's the wrong way of thinking about it. You need to have digital at the heart of what you're doing, because it's transformational. It will mean that you can do things in a very different way. We're seeing some companies, you know, taking their TV ad and then putting that up on YouTube. That's fine. Some companies, it's kind of the next step on, is while they're filming their TV ad, they'll then film a specific ad that's made for YouTube, for TrueView, for example. What I'd love us to see is to get to a stage where, okay, we're thinking from a digital first perspective, because that's where we're going to get most engagement, and really designing for the online community first, as opposed to an offline mass media community.
Great stuff. Thank you both. Please, will you all join me in saying thank you to Mark and Richard. Fantastic stuff. So I'm now in between you guys and drinks and nibbles. So I'm going to close. I wanted to sum up the last 2 hours, if I may, and try to do it in 2 minutes, and then close the event for you. Hopefully some of the key points. I hope you've all been tweeting. If not, there's still time at hashtag IDM Sizzle.
Sorry, there are other social media platforms. Just thought I'd mention it.
Fair point. So I think let's just kick off. So Mark took us through digital is omnipresent and it's not a single channel. Some key points that came out for me: brands have to be a number of things. 1, fast. Share seamlessly, quickly, and in real time. Be innovative. Innovate selectively, but always based on consumer insights. Be fearless. So to punctuate popular culture, Mark said you have to address different topics that are clear and key to your brand, but be brave. Be original. So consumers are moving across devices and platforms. So brands must use those platforms in an original way to cut through. Be confident. Transparent consumer relationships demand confidence and conviction. I think they're 2 really important words to bear top of mind. Be unique. Know and keep to a purpose to drive connection. If you've got a purpose as a brand, stick to it. Be calculating. Use data to target specific and, importantly, high-value customer segments. Be customer-oriented, so use big data to add more value to your conversations. But as Richard said, start small. Big data is about starting small and being smart. And finally, reap the rewards, perhaps the most important one, perhaps. To engage is about growing brand love. It's about driving brand growth. So let's look at measuring what we do in digital against business metrics. So Mark, some great points. Thank you so much. And Richard talked to us about the importance of brand building through video. He talked to us about, as customers become audiences, use video content to win the war for attention, ensuring that you as a brand are heard. 3 points that came across, 3 key points. Number 1, use video to find the right people using data, using small and smart data, and plan for mobile video. I think the idea of 6% of video views via mobile going to 40 was quite startling. Tell great stories using video beyond the 30-second TV spot. So use online video to tell stories without restrictions of time and of schedules. I thought a great point. And then shown, I think, very well with a stunning and moving Dove video, looking at 60 million views for one piece there. And finally, Richard talked to us about build stronger relationships through always-on engagement. The idea of regular episodic content mixing hero, hygiene, and hub sorts of content. Crucially, using, I think, key point, paid media, as it's very hard to brief a viral to be successful. So again, thank you very much to both our speakers. I hope you all captured those points. You've tweeted some of those points. To close, I'd like to thank all of you guys here coming to give up your evening, coming to this network event. Thank you so much. Thank you again to our speakers, and thank you to the IDM team for putting on such a great event.